Hello, welcome to Sustainability in Your Ear. It's the Earth 911 podcast, and I'm Mitch Ratcliffe. Welcome back. We have another conversation with a innovative sustainability leader today, Magnus Jern, who is Chief Water Drinker at tappwater.co. This is a company that has developed the first biodegradable, compostable, smart water filter for the faucet. Welcome, Magnus. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what does a chief water drinker do at a company? Let's start with that.
So I think in our case, it's really all about being passionate about drinking water and knowing as much as there possibly is to know about drinking water throughout the world, whether it's tap water or bottled water. So that's and a large part of that is drinking a lot of water.
And so you're well hydrated and thinking water all day long.
Yes, and I think we should all know more about water, considering that it makes up like more than 60% of our bodies, and it's the thing that we consume the most of, and that we wouldn't survive without. And the fact that most people probably know more about coffee than they know about water.
Yeah, that's probably true. The water is a controversial topic because when it's found to be unsafe, it really creates a strong impression in the public. But on the whole, water is generally safe all over the world, except for about 800 million people who don't have clean running water right now. Yet, bottled water has become a $16 billion industry and produces a massive amount of plastic pollution, much of which is ending up in the oceans. Now, what was the incentive, or what was it that got you going, instigated the Tapp Water project? And tell us, first and foremost, how's Tapp Water's faucet filter different than the others?
So the first thing of all is that if you look at probably the most used water filter today at home is the Brita carafe or pitcher, which you should be replacing your cartridge or your filter every month or so, which actually most people don't. So that's one problem. But if you do, then it generates plastic waste every time you do. So that's kind of one starting point. So our feeling was, if we're going to replace bottled water with a water filter, then ideally it should be something that leaves zero waste. And so so you have two versions of the Tapp 2 available in the United States, the Twist and the Click. The Twist is a mechanical device, essentially has a calendar to remind you to change that filter. And the Click has a Bluetooth connection. It's actually a wireless device that will talk to your phone and tell you about how much water you're using. And one of the things it does is show the savings over buying bottled water. Now, there's been a lot of research on perception of water in the United States. As a result of fear of their drinking water, Americans spend about $5.6 billion a year on unneeded bottled water. You're counting and helping people understand how they're saving that and how they're reducing the plastic pollution. But tell us what the output of the filter is. How clean is the water coming through your filters, and what does it allow through that you need in your body that may not be available from bottled water, for instance? So first of all, most of the tap water in the US, as it is in Europe, is perfectly clean and safe and healthy to drink. I shouldn't say perfectly clean, because nothing is perfectly clean. There's always some contaminants, but it's safe to drink. So the focus really of our filter is to remove one, aesthetic things that might make the water taste bad or smell bad. And the second thing is to protect from things that might be added from the pipes along the way. So after the water company has delivered the water, so it might have been safe when it came out of the water plant, but it's not when it comes out of your tap. So to give you some examples of both, the first part, aesthetics, is typically chlorine or chloramine, or some of the metal taste that can come from the pipes. And the second part, probably the most common thing that we talk about is lead in the pipes, which obviously has been so that's why we think it's really important to protect from these particular contaminants.
Well, so you filter down to 2 microns. What can you stop with a 2-micron filter, and what gets through that, such as minerals that we actually do want in our water?
So examples of that actually we get a pretty significant amount from tap water is magnesium is the top one. I think it's around 20% of your total mineral consumption can come from water, and then calcium, which is more like 10 to 15%. So those two are probably the most important, but then there's lots of other minerals that come through as well. but they're probably not significant enough to make a difference in reality.
But another thing that you are filtering out is microplastics, and I think that's an important one, one that particularly folks who are thinking about bottled water as an alternative, which has been found to include microplastics almost 90% of the time by some research. It's an increasingly ubiquitous pollutant in the world. How is that something that you're pulling out of the water as well before it gets to the glass?
Definitely, and that was really one important part of developing the latest versions of the filters, was to make sure that at least the microplastics that we have been able to detect today in Orb Media study that they published, I think beginning of the year, they found microplastics in 92% of all the tap water in the United States and 93% of the bottled water. So actually bottled water was worse. And it was down to about 3-4 micron, the smallest pieces. Most of them were significantly larger, but so all of those could be filtered out. Yes.
Okay. Now let's turn to the filters themselves. They are smart, biodegradable, and in a way, they're a coach. They help you understand how much water you're consuming. So let's talk about the body of. You have essentially a 65% compostable water faucet filter that screws onto the filter. We're not just talking about the replacement filter, but the entire body of the unit that screws onto the faucet can be broken down afterwards. And you've got some steel and some ABS plastic that would need to be separated, but can also be recycled. So essentially, you've got a 100% recyclable device that you can add to your water to create a safer, more flavorful experience. Tell us about each of the components here, and let's start with what screws on the faucet. What's involved in installation other than screwing it on?
Yeah, and this is not entirely. So the faucet filter is not an entirely new invention. Obviously, there are other companies out there like Brita and Pure are probably the most known ones in the US. So the shape is, or the functionality is quite similar. I think what we've really focused on, because it's been a big problem with the other filters, is leakage. And that they're not stable. So we've really made sure that the standard, like the design, is extremely robust when you screw it on. And you can basically install it in less than a minute. 95% of our customers have no problems at all. Then there might be a few that need a bit of help or they need an extra adapter, but that's pretty much it. Sure. And once it's screwed on, all you do is you switch on the water. You first time you let it run through for maybe half a minute so that it washes out the filter. And then after that, you're good to go. You can just switch it on and off whenever you need it. And when you switch it on, you get the filtered water, or if you switch it off, you can do the dishes or something else. And if you look at the different components, so the cartridge that fits inside it is something that is replaceable with normal household consumption. It normally needs to be replaced about every 3 months. So it's about 300 gallons of water that it can handle. It's also optimized to handle a really high throughput, which has been another issue with a lot of the existing filters. So people feel that it takes too long to fill up a glass of water or something like that. So we're doing over a gallon per minute, which is still less obviously than the faucet, but it's high compared to other filters. So that's something that people really appreciate. Then another aspect of it was that we found is that a lot of people just don't know when to replace the filters or don't trust the signals that they're getting from the device. So some of them have a small light that goes on and off. But what we found was that people feel like they're getting tricked into replacing the filters too early or just based on time. So what we created instead is a system where you put in the number of people that you have in the household, how intensive your water usage is, and then based on that, it will guide you to when you need to replace the filter. So we've tried to do it as scientifically as possible to make sure that it's really replaced when it needs to be replaced and that people feel that they're engaging with it. Plus, it also tells them every time they do it how much money they've saved in terms of replacing bottled water, as well as how many bottles of water they could have used otherwise, the carbon footprint reduction, and other elements. And we see that really encourages people to continue to use it and to continue to avoid bottled water because they're feeling that they're doing something good. So that's a really important part of it when it comes to behavioral change.
And this app is called My Tapp, and it loads on the iPhone and Android, and it speaks
exactly, or on the web as well. So you don't have to use the app, but
right. And for to talk to the filter though, the click, the one with the Bluetooth, Now this is actually interacting with the filter, and it's measuring the water going through and telling you when you need to change the filter. It's got some other really cool features like finding water fountains near you when you're out of the house too, so that you can fill up again. But this app is intriguing because it's also kind of a coach. It helps you understand what you're doing in the case of maintaining the cleanliness of the filter. Do you anticipate building other kinds of capabilities into that app over time about hydration?
Definitely. So I think we're really listening to what people are interested in, what customers want in terms of improving their lives and continuing to encourage them to get fresh and safe drinking water. And in the future, we will be putting more sensors into them as well, so we can actually measure the water quality. So that's a big part of what we're looking to do. But I think we're still, we're a bit away from that, but we'll get there within the next year or so.
Well, and this is, of course, sustainability is going to be enabled by technology and our ability to measure what we're doing, because it'll give us increasing feedback and help us understand how to use the resources, the limited resources that we have on the planet. The mechanical version of the Tapp, the Tapp 2 Twist, has what I would equate to being like an old-fashioned cooking timer on it. You click it up to the period of time that you want to be reminded that the filter needs to be changed, and it just counts down. With the Bluetooth device, you've added a battery and you've added, obviously, a chip of some sort to talk to the Bluetooth. Is that something that is going to be recyclable as well when you're doing this?
So yeah, that is a kind of a complaint from some customers that want to be completely sustainable. But obviously, most people use a mobile phone today. Most people use computers, so it's very difficult to avoid microchips and radio signals. But we really wanted to give people the option and say, look, you don't have to have technology inside it if you don't want to. Here's the manual version; it will work for you as well. Same filtering capabilities. But we also think that it's important to leverage the technology today to create customer interaction and to really build on that. So we think that there's pros and cons of both, but
sure.
Yeah, we wanted to offer the options right now. And one of the things that we want to do in the future as well is to see, can we remove the battery by powering it through a turbine instead, which should be possible.
I was wondering if you were going to go there, because you obviously have a flow that you could run power off of in the device. That's an intriguing possibility. But you hit an important issue, which is there are trade-offs in every product, and you may get actually more efficiency out of the radio-enabled one because you're tracking your usage more carefully. You may actually be coached to reduce your water on a real-time basis, and of course you're healthier. You're changing your filters on time.
That's the feeling as well. Like the average household will reduce the number of bottles by probably around 700 to 800 bottles a year. So if you look at that, I think it's worth the trade-off of a small microchip and a battery, as long as that's recycled in the right place.
And that brings me to the filters themselves. When you change them, and you talked about the fact that previous versions of filters included plastic, you've got a carbon block technology for your filters that will also break down in 2 to 8 weeks in an industrial compost pile. How did you come up with that technology, and how did you test it to find out that it really does break down in that period of time?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's important also to note that not all carbon blocks or activated carbon technologies are created equal. There's been a lot of improvements in terms of water filtration over the last 3 to 4 years. Previously, it wasn't really possible to filter out lead and heavy metals using carbon blocks. It was also really hard to get the micron rating down without reducing the pressure and lots of other things. So we've worked really hard on finding the latest and greatest materials to make this work so that it really removes as many contaminants as possible. But then at the same time, using organic materials. So it uses coconut shell as the basis, which today is the most efficient activated carbon in terms of removing or absorbing contaminants. And the other nice thing of that is that it's organic. So then the other part of it, so then typically you have a plastic casing made of ABS that is pretty thick. And instead we made it out of PLA, so biodegradable plastics that will biodegrade in an industrial compost in about 2 to 8 weeks. And if you put it somewhere else on a landfill, it'll probably take a couple of years, but it will still not leave any waste over time. So it's still like even if it doesn't go in the right place, at least it breaks down and becomes nothing over time, or goes back to organic material. There's still some small inert materials in there that we haven't been able to replace entirely. So we use some silicone, but we're working on removing the silicone completely as well, so that it's entirely compostable over time.
And silicon is essentially an inorganic material in terms of it's completely inert. It's not organically active.
It's not, but it doesn't count as a compostable material either.
Now,
and I think there's very strict requirements on this in some states like California. So we want to try to get as close as possible to those requirements over time.
Well, and now the other final, really, I think, interesting version of the characteristic of the device is that you can subscribe to update replacement filters, so that as the device is tracking your usage, it's also making sure that you've got the supplies to refill them. Let's talk a little about the price. There's the Tapp Click and the Tapp Twist are respectively $59 and $49 to purchase, and you can buy it online. But you can also subscribe for an additional $30 a year for a complete set of replacements. How does that work? Do you get one box of filters, or do you get a filter every couple of months? What's the user experience with the subscription?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I think what we found is that people want to live as simple lives as possible. They don't want to have to remember to reorder stuff. On the other hand, they don't really like being charged for things every month either.
Right.
So we found a nice middle ground here with an annual subscription. So you get a package sent to your house, which will last 1 year. We tell you when to replace your cartridges, and then after 1 year, we ask you if you want to continue using the filter and continue with the subscription, and then we send you another yearly package. And we found that people are super happy with that. And so the setup actually is that if you sign up straight away for the annual subscription, then it costs, I think, $89 or $79 the first year, including cartridges for 1 year, and then it's actually $60 per year after that.
So you're getting a discount on your filters the first year, and then a little less discount. But the convenience is that you get a box. It's in your pantry, and you can change it whenever the filter tells you it needs a new cartridge.
Yeah, and if you think about it, in the end, it's $5 per month approximately. So it's in comparison. I think the average spend on bottled water is about $280. It's probably a lot higher for households that only consume bottled water, so that the average is really across all households.
So less than a cup of coffee a month for clean water.
Yeah. So everyone is going to save money on it for sure.
Yeah, Magnus, this has been a fascinating conversation, and this is a really innovative technology. It's great to see the idea of biodegradability in physical products that we're putting into our home. Are there any thoughts that you want to share with people who particularly are worried about their water and the quality of their water today, and what they should do, whether it's testing or validating the safety of their water before they make a decision about buying a bottle of water?
Yeah, so I think spend some time like really reading up official material from organizations like the World Health Organization or EPA or others, and look at what their recommendations are, because they've spent a lot of time looking at this. And yes, of course, there's going to be, there's contaminants, or there's chemicals like fluoride, which are very controversial, but you're just gonna have to make a decision on what you care about or what you don't care about. And in most cases, like we said before, the water is safe to drink, and of course, like it's also and it's in the same way that the air outside or in your home is relatively safe, but there's contaminants in that as well. So everything has some kind of risk associated with it. So I think that's the first thing. And a water filter is kind of like an insurance. It will make sure that most of the potential contaminants that you might get into your body, they will move away, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. And if you're really worried about what kind of water you have, then send us or send someone else the lab testing report, and you can get, I think, lab tests for about in some cases you get them free of charge from your water company. In other cases, you might have to charge or pay a little bit of money to send it into a lab, but send that to us, and we'll have a look at it and tell you in a straightforward way whether your water is safe to drink and whether a filter like ours would work. But I think that it's really important to try to like make it a fact-based decision, not just, my water tastes bad, or I think chlorine is bad, or something like that.
Or somebody just told me that the water is not safe. Yeah. And those reports are available from water districts. Generally, they're mailed out annually. If you haven't, folks haven't received one, you can call your water utility and get a report. But and this is the question that Magnus is really raising: is it worth 300 to 2,000 times as much for bottled water compared to the tap? And bottled water carries so many other carbon impacts in terms of the petroleum used, the refinement of the petroleum, the plastics that go into the ocean. So a faucet filter is a potentially great way to give yourself that sense of assurance that you need that your water is going to be safe, while simultaneously doing something that's much better for the planet. So Magnus Jern, thanks very much for joining us on Sustainability in Your Ear.
Thank you so much. We have a lot of work to do going forward. There's about 50 million American households drinking bottled water still, so I think together we can do something about that.
Well, let's continue telling the story. We look forward to having you back on the show. Thanks, Magnus.
Thank you very much.
And that's Sustainability in Your Ear for today. This is Mitch Ratcliffe. Stay tuned to the podcast station. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, as well as others. Take care.